Have you ever started a medication and then noticed weight gain? Sometimes the doctor might tell us that this can cause weight gain, but most of the time they say nothing. I personally think it's because, especially when we're talking about mental health, the person in front of you is already struggling so much that the doctor doesn't want to give them one more thing to freak out about. And they're worried that if they tell them they could gain weight, might not take the medication. Would you be upset to learn that medications that we take to solve a health problem actually produce more problems? Sometimes even more problems than what they solved?
Medicines circulate throughout the body and they affect all of your cells. They may be better absorbed by certain cells. They may have stronger effects on certain cells than others. But that's not typically what's happening because, if it's getting into one cell, it's usually able to get into most of them. And so whatever you're taking in as a medication to try to help yourself with a particular problem, it is going to have ripple effects. It is going to affect your other cells as well, and not necessarily in ways you were hoping for. So, and the brain is a especially good example of this because a lot of the psychiatric medications, often they're designed to try to raise or lower the activity or the level of a particular chemical in the brain, like a neurotransmitter, like dopamine or serotonin or acetylcholine. But you can't, it's just impossible. You cannot create a drug that goes only to the cells that are making that neurotransmitter and only to those circuits and not to the rest of the brain. And the other thing is, even if it could go only to those places and work only on those cells, the body, it's designed to compensate for whatever thing you're trying to do to it to change it. So it's kind of like, it's called homeostasis, which means you trying to force something in one particular direction, but the body will automatically react by trying to get things back to the way they were before. So to try to restore that original equilibrium, and you can't control them. It's a wonderful story that we tell ourselves. Oh, I take this medicine and it raises my serotonin levels, and I need that because I have a serotonin deficit. Well, there are serotonin receptors and cells throughout the gut, for example. You might end up with constipation. You might end up with stomach pain. You might end up with digestive problems. You might end up with some irritation of the gut lining. All kinds of things can happen because you're affecting not just the brain, but also the gut. And we don't have the control that we think we have.
Medication is a toxin that in specific situations can give me a positive outcome. But they trick us into believing that medication is the solution to all the problems. And they do that by presenting it as the cure. Well, they might not use the word cure. They're going to say, this is going to solve your situation. This is the answer for you. This is what we recommend. They don't say the word cure, but this is how they trap us into this lie story that we are all living. We're in discomfort, possibly pain, and we want relief, Wellness Warrior. And we are told that this medication is the answer. As a matter of fact, sometimes, especially depending on the medication it is, when you might know enough to say no, they'll say to you things like, well, it's your heart attack, or, well, you'll be back here in a few weeks. I've actually had people tell me that that's what the doctor said. What's interesting is that we take the medication and we feel better, especially if it's a short course of medication. But what about those times where we're expected to take the medication moving forward, where this is not one and done? This is not a few weeks. This is forever. Most people who are taking medication for extended periods of time end up living some kind of toxic effect. And this is actually the trap, Wellness Warrior, because now, months or even years later, we go back to our doctor and tell them about this new symptom. And the doctor's like, well, no problem. I have a medication for that. And this is going to solve your situation. And we take the medication and we feel better. And then a few months later, a new symptom crops up, a new medication, and so on, and so on. And before you know it, you're taking maybe 5 medications, so different prescriptions, which, by the way, is the typical for us adults here in North America, that we take 5-ish medications. Unless you're one of those really unlucky people, like the people that I know, who end up taking upwards of 10 medications. Now, when you look online and you ask about why people might be taking upwards of 10 medications, you see things written like, well, if you're particularly sickly, you might be in that unfortunate scenario where you need more medication. I'm curious, won't swear. Are you taking medication? How many medications do you take? Because it seems to me that doctors just give medication out the way that they give candy out. But let me stop. Because you know how quickly YouTube likes to restrict me. So let's talk about the lie. If I tell you that something is a solution, wouldn't you expect that the situation that you're living would actually be solved, that the problem would be gone? So if I have to take this medication forever, doesn't that mean that the problem is still there? Okay. So now we have a new question. Because if the problem's still there, then we should be asking, is there any way to actually solve the problem? So let's use an example, because I want to make sure that I make this very clear. When it comes to diabetes, have you ever been presented with, first of all, the action of the medication you're taking to lower or regulate the sugar in your blood and to regulate the amount of insulin there so that it can do its job? The medication is working on one of these two things. And were you told that while the medication is doing that, it's going to have an impact, very likely, on the complications of diabetes? For example, that your weight might rise, that you might have increased insulin problems, damage, etc., cardiovascular issues, nerve damage, eye damage. Basically, all the complications of diabetes would be impacted by the medication. Were you told about that? And not in a good way. Were you told about that? And then, were you given the alternative option to remove all unnecessary carbohydrates from your diet, which would include ultra-processed foods, completely gone, no longer eating those, and all high-sugar whole foods as a solution to your diabetic situation? And by the way, when I say solution, I mean if I were to take these things out of my diet, my blood sugar would regulate, my insulin would regulate, my diabetes would no longer be an issue. A solution where the diabetes is no longer sitting there. I can tell you, this information was never given to my parents or my grandparents because I asked. Let me know if that information was given to you, because I would love to know if there are doctors out there presenting that alternative that is a true solution. Because here's my problem. Over the course of the last 6 years, I have learned that many of the health problems we are suffering are actually coming from ultra-processed foods that we're eating.
So we're told that these vegetable oils are heart healthy. In fact, the most prestigious nutrition institutions in the world, Harvard School of Public Health, Mayo Clinic's Nutrition Department, Tufts University Nutrition Department, American Heart Association, Cleveland Clinic, on, all tell us these highly polyunsaturated vegetable oils are heart healthy, right? In fact, it says right on the label, heart healthy. I'm here today to defend the hypothesis that these are the most dangerous products in our food supply, bar none. 12 years of scientific investigation and following the science leads me to this conclusion. You'll have to make up your own mind. In the 19th century, regarding heart disease, there was 8 papers in the entire century. 1912, James Herrick published the first known heart attack in the US. 1930s, coronary heart disease became the leading cause of death. It was virtually unknown 20 years earlier in 1910. 2010, 1 out of 3 people, approximately 32%, are dying of coronary heart disease in the US. And as you know, coronary heart disease is the leading cause of death worldwide. So the increase looks something like that red line right there. All right, how about cancer? So cancer deaths look something like this. This is a 62-fold increase in cancer deaths in 200 years. How about type 2 diabetes? 2016, we're at 13% prevalence of diabetes in the US. This is a 4,643-fold increase in diabetes in 126 years. If diabetes had doubled during this time frame, that would be statistically significant. It went up 4,643-fold. Okay, how about macular degeneration, the leading cause of irreversible vision loss and blindness in people over the age of 50 worldwide? Between 1851 and 1930, there was less than 50 cases of macular degeneration in all the world's literature. 2020, 196 million people affected with AMD. As of 2004, 14 million of those people were either blind and or severely visually impaired in both eyes, all right? So the increase looks something again like this red line right here. How about Alzheimer's and dementia? So the first known case published by Dr. Alzheimer himself, 1908. Where are we today? 2023, 55 million cases. How about obesity? In the United States, 1.2% of men age 18 to 80. By 1960, when we all thought we were lean and fit and healthy, obesity had risen 11-fold to 13%. So this trend continues, right? So obesity since the 19th century has risen 35-fold in 118 years. Why is this happening? Well, very simply, sugar increased 17-fold just between 1822 and 1999. Sugar is a nutrient-deficient food. 1866, the first seed oil was introduced in the United States, cottonseed oil. The U.S. had never seen a seed oil before that. 1880, we got refined white wheat flour, nutrient-deficient food. 1911, Procter & Gamble introduced good old Crisco, trans fats, right? That's processed food. That's it. That's really all it is today, too. It's those 4 things. 2009, 63% of the American diet made up of those 4 foods, and chronic diseases look something like this.
Because we've been eating these high sugar, highly toxic seed oils, our bodies, they're damaged, Wellness Warrior. For many of us, returning to even a paleo-style diet may still allow too many toxins in to allow us to heal. There are 3 important points that you're going to take away from this video if you want to solve this issue you're having with your health and your weight. Everything you put in your mouth impacts your whole body. Medication is not as targeted as they want us to believe. Even if you're taking medication for diabetes or any other condition, eating a healthy diet is essential. Your body is already struggling. There is no reason to make healing harder. And the third thing is that your body wants to heal. If you feed your body correctly and get out of your body's way, as Georgia loves to tell us, it will try to heal you. How are you working with your doctor to allow your body to do what's best for you? I want you to think about asking more questions. I want you to think about booking follow-up appointments. I want you to think about booking follow-up lab tests. Yes, that might cost you money, but it's going to help your body to heal because it's going to help you and your doctor to see that there's progress being made. That means pushing for the natural, holistic solutions, because those natural, holistic solutions allows my body to do what it does best with the real food that I'm eating. Health and happiness take work, Wellness Warrior. I want you to make working on your health a top priority. Share this video so that more people can be proactive in their health journey, and the video on the screen is going to help you with yours.